Welcome to the most listened to golf in the world, the Fairways of Life show, on air, online, and around the world, with the most candid interviews, unforgettable stories, taking you beyond the ropes. Here's your host, New York Times bestselling author Matt Adams.
And we welcome you into day 2 of the Masters week, and it has been a great week so far. So much already going on in the first men's major of 2024. Good day, one and all, from wherever you are joining us around the world. Obviously, we are on the road, but we got a lot of stuff to go through with you today. And one of the things that I'm the most excited about was that Andrew and Dom dug into our archives and pulled up a lot of stories from absolute legends about experiences that they had at Augusta National. We're going to get into those in just a little bit. We do want to talk about the weather. I do want to talk about the press conference schedule. I want to comment a little bit and get your reaction about what you heard, particularly from the flash area from players yesterday, because, I was reviewing it again last night. We're just sitting around watching TV, and I'm looking through. I was going through the transcripts because I feel like I get more depth going through transcripts than just listening to sound. And I was really struggling to find the particular depth. And I'm not necessarily putting that on the players. I'm definitely putting it on the kind of those of us that were asking the questions. I just wasn't very impressed with the depth of them. Maybe it was just me, but we'll see what you guys think. A press conference schedule, however, today. In earnest, at 9:30, Victor Hovland. At 10 a.m., Jon Rahm. At 11 a.m., Tiger Woods. At 12:30, there you can see Rory McIlroy. At 1 p.m., Ludwig Åberg. At 1:30 p.m., Wyndham Clark. At 2:30 p.m., Jordan Spieth. At 3 p.m., Scotty Scheffler. At 30 p.m., Brooks Koepka. Compelling look and list of players coming in. Tomorrow, Fred Ridley will address the media at 11 a.m. Thursday, of course, 8 a.m. scheduled. Jack Nicklaus, Gary Player, Tom Watson, and that's immediately following the ceremonial opening tee shots that will be struck. I believe, I haven't heard it confirmed yet, but I'll be curious when Mr. Nicklaus amongst them addresses the media. If when he hits the tee shot at the Masters, the ceremonial tee shot, is that the only time he's hitting a tee shot now? Because he's not playing, as far as I know. I spoke with, who was I working with? Oh, it was Jeff Sluman when I was, I forget what tournament we were hosting together, but the broadcasts of, and he played in one of Mr. Nicklaus's charity events recently down in Florida, and he didn't play. And I don't know if he's playing anymore. So anyways, that's just a personal point of curiosity there. There you can see on your television screens the full Masters field. For those of you that are on the radio side, we have up on the television screen a list of every player in the field in this graphic that Andrew built that I think is absolutely brilliant. I think what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we get out on our social media all of these graphics that our team has built, because they in one place give you critical information. For example, right now, Andrew, let's run through the air times again. This is something that I promised you that I would do with regular over the coming days. Masters on the Range starts this morning at 9 a.m. Masters on the Range, and you can see CBS Sports HQ. You can get it on the official Masters app. You can get it on Paramount Plus as well. They say CBS Sports on there. Masters on the Range on Wednesday will also be at 9 a.m. Had a chance to watch quite a bit of that yesterday. In fact, those interviews I enjoyed more. It was mostly Amanda Balionis talking to players on the range, and that was good. I got some good depth out of that. Coverage schedule: Masters on the Range on Thursday from 8:30 a.m. Featured groups will kick off at 9:15. And you can see that it's the same distribution, save for one. Masters on the Range will be on the CBS Sports network. And it depends on what system you use, DirecTV or what you have. But the featured group coverage on Thursday will kick off at 9:15 a.m. Amen Corner at 10:45, holes 15 and 16 at 11:45, and Masters Highlight Show 11:35 p.m. All these times are Eastern. Friday, similar schedule. On the range at 8:30, featured group 9:15, Amen Corner. You can see 10:45, 11:45, and then 11:35 p.m. Eastern time. All you can get coverage of Thursday and Friday. Now, as to Thursday and Friday, we're going to talk about that in just a minute with Dom, because he's got the official forecast that we received from Augusta National, and then we're going to dig into it a little bit more with ours. Continuing on the coverage schedule. Yeah, you can see people looking at that going, whoa, what is all that? Well, it's the same information we've been giving you, but with a critical piece of information down the bottom. Second from the bottom for those of you on the TV side, radio side, I'll explain. Masters on the range at 11 a.m. on Saturday. Feature groups at 10:15, Amen Corner at 11:45, holes 15 and 16 at 12:30. Then there's a slate of programming that precedes the live coverage on CBS, including a 2019 look back at Tigers' victory. That will be 2 p.m. At 3 p.m., third round coverage on CBS. Hello, friends. And then an encore airing of the Masters on CBS Sports Network will be at 8 p.m. Saturday night. Okay, on Sunday, Masters on the range again at 11 a.m. Featured groups 10:15, Amen Corner 11:45, holes 15 and 16, 12:30. Remember, these are all Eastern time. 2024 Masters final round at 2 p.m. on Sunday, and I still want you guys to send us. Would you get set up on Thursday or you get it set up on Sunday? Dom sent it to contact@fairwaysoflife.com. I want to see what your setup looks like for the Masters. 2024 Masters final round encore again will be Sunday night at 8 p.m. on CBS Sports Network. Now, as to Thursday and Friday, the weather is definitely starting to become a story early in this week of the Masters. This is the official forecast, and then I want to bring Dom in because I want to break this a bit more. This is just, for me, a little bit too broad brush, but let me give you the broad brush anyways. Thursday, mostly cloudy with a 90% chance of showers and thunderstorms. 90%. Windy. Rainfall forecast between 1 and 1.5 inches. Low of 65, high of 78. Here's another big thing. Winds. South, shifting southwest. 15 to 25 miles per hour. Those are the sustained winds. Gusts 30 miles per hour. Friday, mostly sunny and windy. Note it's in the forecast, and windy. Noticeably less humid, okay? 58 will be the low. 73 will be the high. Winds west, northwest, 15 to 20 miles per hour with gusts of 30 miles per hour. That is a dramatic shift of the winds while still keeping up the same velocity. Saturday, mostly sunny and warm, high of 78. Winds west, northwest, coming from that same direction, 7 to 15 miles per hour. So there's a lot of different directions we can go in discussing this. But Dom, let me start first of all with you. On Thursday, can you give us more information about when this rain is? When is the bulk of the rain coming in? When are the thunderstorms expected? Will the winds be ripping throughout? What are you getting from the hour by hour?
So the hour by hour, I have I highly recommend this app for those of you who are into weather things. It's called Ventuski, and it is incredibly accurate. There's a lot of people who go boating and sailing that use this because it's accurate to even very specific small areas, in the middle of the water, like wind speed, everything. It's a wonderful app. So here is the detailed information, Matt. The rain will begin Thursday around 1 or 2 a.m. That's when the rain's going to start coming in. Not a lot of rain, not a lot of wind. I mean, we're to like a couple tenths of an inch, right? And then it starts to pick up. 3 a.m., 4 a.m. You're talking about 0.16 inches of rain falling just at 3 a.m. 0.1 at 4 a.m. 0.05 at 5 a.m. Now it gets heavy. Around 6 a.m. is when it gets very heavy. 0.15, a quarter of an inch of rain at 7 a.m., a quarter of an inch of rain and lightning at 8 a.m., 0.35 inches, almost a half an inch of rain falling at this point at 9 a.m. And this whole stretch I'm talking to you guys about, 6 to 9, 6 to 10 a.m. Winds are sustained at 15, gusts over 30 during this whole window, okay? The rain is going to start to taper off around 11 a.m. 0.02, 0.03 inches falling, still a little bit of rain. There's a 100% chance of rain at this time. It will be raining, just not heavy. But
Well,
the
also,
winds,
Dom, keep noting the lightning because that's really important. The last time you mentioned lightning was at 8 a.m.
so according to this forecast, the lightning between 7 and 9 a.m. That's when the rain will be falling the absolute heaviest with the potential for actual physical lightning. Now, obviously, Thursday is days away at this point, so it's possible this could shift slightly, but that is what it's looking at right now. That's what it's looking like. Now, the winds are an issue. This whole stretch I'm talking to you about, you're talking about 2, 3 in the morning all the way up until about noon. We are looking at rain falling and wind gusts over 30. That whole range. Now, around 12-ish, the rain will start to potentially taper off, and we could be looking at space here, gaps where there's no rain at all. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 30, 40, 50% chance of rain, depending on what you look at. It looks like around 3 or 4 o'clock, that goes back up into the 80% range, but it's going to be a small amount of rain following there, Matt. It's not, we're looking at 0.01 inches at this point, right? So the afternoon tee times, they might be a little wet, but the course is going to be soft, Matt. Very, very soft. So I really want to talk. I know we have Michael Eaves from ESPN coming up. I want to talk about, with that heavy rain coming, how likely is a stoppage or a delay in tee times? Is it even possible? Are they just going to play through heavy rain? Additionally, what is that going to do to the guys playing in the morning block and the afternoon block? How does that affect how things are going to unfold? Because I think it's going to have a huge effect on how things are going to unfold. But another issue is the wind, and it is a issue. All right, not only with the rain, but you're talking about 30-mile-per-hour gusts all day, even when it's not raining. And on Friday, it's not going to be raining, but it's going to be windy as hell. Same thing, 30-mile-per-hour gusts all day.
Yeah.
That's a situation. Matt.
Yeah. Now, everybody knows that Augusta National has a sub-air system. So the sub-air systems are going to be working like crazy. The entire property drains extremely well into the tributaries of Rays Creek. So the issue that they're going to have with two, to start with on the rain side before we talk about the wind side. The rain side that they're going to run into is if it is accompanied by a conspiratorial lightning. If that happens, then obviously play stops. That was the thing that you were asking about. And if there's lightning in the area, then it's going to stop play, unfortunately. The worst thing that anybody wants to hear. Because it's the rain itself. If it's heavy enough to cause standing water, then it's going to be a problem. But the drainage there is so good that, and again, the amounts that you're talking about, I think there would be temporary, in my opinion, as an old course guy, I think there would be temporary halts in play because of how heavy it's going to come down, that it's going to cause some standing water before the topsoil can absorb it and it gets down into the system that will pull it through the green complex and then whisk it away down the hills. The lightning is going to be an issue. When all of this is joined by those winds and wind gusts, it's going to make it really interesting for the players. And you heard me mention when we were looking at Andrew official forecast that we got this morning, again, for those that are with us on the TV side, which, by the way, Dom, you got a message already this morning. Paul Eales, a winner on the European Tour, is watching you in England outside of Liverpool, and he called you with a weatherman because of the comprehensive nature of the information you were giving us. But what's interesting about the winds is you've got winds coming from two different directions over the course of 2 days. That's the reason why on Friday the temperature drops so dramatically, particularly on the low end, because that wind is coming more from the direction of Chicago and the other wind is coming more from the direction of Louisiana, if you please, New Orleans. And so that's going to have an impact on the players in terms of how they adjust. It always has an impact on a player in terms of how they get used to the golf course. Now, the early players that, if they are able to play through the rain, if we don't have standing water, are going to have they're all long enough, they're going to have the advantage of shooting at very, very soft greens. but that wind is going to tend to mitigate the exacting nature of their approach shots. So that's a lot. There's a lot to take in with what we just heard as far as this weather goes, and that is something that we definitely want to continue to follow in earnest. I am super excited with the guests that we have coming up here on the Fairways of Life show. Michael Eaves has joined us over the course of the last couple of years to share with us his views, share with us his anticipations of that which lies in store, and equally as important, share with us his excitement, his anticipation about his important role that he's playing in the broadcast of the Masters. When we come back, we're going to be joined live by Michael Eaves. The Fairways of Life show is presented by the PGA Tour Superstore, coast to coast, 68 big, beautiful stores now. You need it. You can find it for your game inside of those stores. I think the strongest attribute of the PGA Tour Superstore are their people, though. They are the best in the business. They are professionals. Think about that. There's other places where you can buy golf equipment, but there's no other place where you can know for certain that the people that are tending to what is best for you and your game are professionals at what they do. Shop with the pros at your happy place.
Relax. Easy now. Find your happy place. The PGA Tour Superstore. It's all in the hips, where every swing is possible. Just tap it in. Yes!
Find all the latest gear, apparel, and personalized club fittings.
Is this goodbye?
We've only just begun.
Shop with the pros at Golf's Happy Place, the PGA Tour Superstore.
In Ireland, golf is more than just a game. Come and experience our world-famous links courses and our world-famous parkland courses, all set alongside world-famous scenery. And visit our world-famous historic sites. And while you're here, enjoy our world-famous hospitality. Fill your heart with Ireland at ireland.com/golf.
Ben Hogan Golf Equipment is back. Established in 1953, we serve golfers who demand excellence of their equipment. Designed by the game's best engineers, forged in the world's best foundries, and built to order in the USA. Don't settle for off-the-rack disappointment. Elevate your game with custom clubs at direct-to-consumer pricing. Exclusively at benhogangolf.com. That's benhogangolf.com.
The Gen 6 iron is a culmination of everything that we have learned as a team, the absolute best golf club I've ever hit. It's something special. Say hello to the new PXG Gen 6 iron. The longest, most accurate irons we've ever made. They go higher and farther than any iron that I have hit to date, and they're so easy to hit. Super excited for the consumer to try this. They're gonna love them.
PXG, nobody makes golf clubs the way we do, period.
Baseball? Nah. Football? Done it. I think I'm gonna go after the PGA Tour.
Playing on the PGA Tour is not easy. But you know what is easy? Hitting the 524 series from Tour Edge.
Hitting linebackers and home runs used to be easy.
Out here, you're gonna need all the easy you can get. Introducing the 524 series from Tour Edge. The easiest clubs you'll ever hit. Even the best players in the world can use a little easy.
I like the sound of that. Look out, PGA Tour.
Pound for pound, nothing comes close.
Boyne Golf provides the ultimate world-class golf destination with 10 championship-caliber courses spanning 3 resorts. Centered in Michigan's northern Lower Peninsula, the courses are the products of some of the game's masters, including Robert Trent Jones Sr., Arthur Hills, and Donald Ross. From the all-inclusive vacation packages, elite instruction with the Boyne Golf Academy, tournaments, and so much more, Boyne Golf truly offers an unrivaled Michigan golf vacation experience. Just log on to BoyneGolf.com. Welcome back to the Fairways of Life show. Pleasure to have your company from wherever you are joining us around the world, hearing from people around the world today, from Morocco, from South Africa, from Southport, England, outside of Liverpool. Welcome, one and all. Delighted to welcome Michael Eaves into the Fairways of Life show. You know him as a host at ESPN Sports Center and more. He is a 4-time Emmy Award winner. He joined ESPN back in 2015. He's a University of Kentucky alum. Maybe they're going to get Billy Donovan down there from what I'm hearing. We welcome Michael in right now. Michael, to that point, Here we have South Carolina winning the national championship. We have UConn back to back. We have hockey playoffs in less than a week and a half. Baseball is back underway. There is so much. Premiership is going to wrap up in 5-6 weeks, and that will be over, and more and more and more. There's so much going on in the world of sport right now that here we have the Masters, which is kind of the gateway, the right to spring. On top of that, can an argument be made that this time of year is the best time of year if you're a fan truly of sport across the board?
The spring definitely is. I do believe May is the best overall because you have playoffs in both the NBA, NHL. You also have the Kentucky Derby. You also have the Indianapolis 500. So all those things happen in May, plus baseball still in action, plus the PGA Championship now. I think May is the best month of the 12, but I believe this is the best week because I think Masters Week is the best week in sports because it's so much more than just about the 4 rounds of golf, as we know, especially if you're a golf fan at all, Matt. If you just play golf, Matt, like you're all about the par 3. You're about seeing what's up with the Champions Dinner. Like that little intrigue adds to it as well. The Masters Week, for me personally, is by far the best week of the year.
When you think about whether we're talking about the Masters, whether we're talking about golf at large, or whether we're talking about sport at large, currently, I think it's fair to say that we live in a society that you either have to choose one side or another, regardless of the issue. You have to choose one side or the other side. If you've chosen that side, the other side says you're wrong. In other words, there seems to be at times a lack of listening, a lack of understanding, a lack of learning from each other. Is sport a reflection of that at times, Michael, or is sport a place that's a refuge from it? Is that part of why this week is so special?
All right, this is going to be me doing the complete opposite of what you just said. I think it's both. It's really easy to get divided when it comes to sports because it's emotional. And if you are for one side, your emotion immediately tells you that you have to be against the other side. If you're a Yankees fan, you can't be a Red Sox fan. If you're a Kentucky fan, you can't be right. USC, UCLA, we have these natural divisions and rivalries as it relates to sports. But I've always said, Matt, as it relates to American society specifically, sports is the most unifying aspect of our culture, right? Because you can have an old Jewish woman, a young Latino man who both root for the Knicks. You can have people that would never cross paths otherwise than if they're going to a Chiefs game. Like there's no other thing in sports because churches are divided on Sundays, right? Neighborhoods are divided as well based on socioeconomic standing. But sports is a one thing that unifies the largest cross section of people in our society for sure. And that to me has also been one of the most beautiful aspects of sports because it brings so many different people together. And each little sport can be a microcosm of that. I mean, I played golf my entire life, and I've definitely played golf with people I never would have otherwise if we hadn't just got paired together, at some daily fee course somewhere. But that is also sort of the beauty of coming to the Masters as well because people love this place, and you may never see those two people in the same room ever again.
Yeah, everything you just said reminds me of, I'm sure you remember the great author, he's still alive, but Michael Murphy, who wrote the book Golf in the Kingdom back in 1971. And he told me one time that sports is Western yoga, which I thought was an interesting way to phrase it because he was very much into the culture of India and that mindset. So this week, where did you grow up, by the way? What part of the country did you grow up?
I grew up in a small town in Kentucky, about 800 people, a place called White Plains.
Okay. So where you were, because I was obviously from the north. So for me, the Masters, it started the spring. It's like the official,
100%.
It didn't matter what weather was going on. It meant that winter was officially behind us. It's same for you guys?
Absolutely. And also I grew up in the central time zone, right? So the Masters would go off around 5 o'clock central time. And this is after the clocks change, right? So you have all this other daylight after the Masters would conclude each day. And then I would still have time to go out my backyard and practice some of the golf that I just witnessed on television. So for me, it's the kickoff, it's the official kickoff for spring for sure, but also the golf season in my mind. Even now, I've lived different parts of the country, even Los Angeles, and now in the Northeast. But it doesn't feel like golf season to me until the week after the Masters.
Did you allow yourself as a kid, are you the type person that allowed yourself to dream and dream big? Did you allow yourself to dream that one day you'd be one of the faces on ESPN, that one day you'd be one of the faces bringing us our news and our interviews and talking to the players as they come off the course, when you think about the magnitude of that at the Masters?
I did. Not in my early teens, because at that point in my mind, I still want to be like a professional athlete. But once I got, towards the latter years of high school and really kind of started to decide what I wanted my career choice to be, when I realized I was not going to be a professional athlete, then yes, because I always watched the biggest events, as everyone does. But I watch sports pretty much all day, every day when I wasn't in school. But it's the big events that you remember. It's the football games on Thanksgiving Day. It's the NBA games on Christmas Day. It's the national championship game the week of the Masters, right? You remember all those things. And like, yeah, I want to do that because I want to be at those events. So absolutely. And I've been very fortunate that I've done just about every event that I watched as a kid and wanted to do and covered it in some capacity. So I've been very fortunate and very blessed in that regard, that those dreams that I allowed myself to have, most of them have come true in some regard.
I didn't expect us to go down this road, Michael, but I'm glad that we have, because I think I have a personal belief that when you do a broadcast on ESPN, or you're broadcasting the Masters, or in a tiny way with what we're doing, that somewhere, somehow, someone that needs to hear a message hears it, that there's purpose in hopefully in what we all engage in. And I believe that, as we were talking about society, and there's that kind of crab in a bucket mentality, as one tries to climb out, the rest pull them back down again, that our society really doesn't promote particularly young people to say that you could do whatever you want, that you can accomplish whatever you want. So I'm curious, given what you have accomplished on a massive scale, in fairness, what message do you have particularly to those young people, someone that is you 30 years ago, sitting down going, gee, what do I want to do with my life, when society and maybe even people closest to them are saying, who do you think you are? You can't do that. What do you say to those people to think big?
Have the audacity to be greater than your dreams. I mean, because how can you achieve greatness if you don't have that thinking? And for young people, they see constant reminders of it all the time. If they look at the heroes that they watch every day, whether it's in sports, whether it's in music, whether it's whatever. I mean, if you're a Taylor Swift fan, look how great Taylor Swift is. And she's a young girl from Pennsylvania who played a guitar, right? Ended up going to Nashville, and then all of a sudden, because she believed in herself and kept doing what she wanted to do, what she loved to do, she became one of the biggest pop stars in history. She's a billionaire, right? And she was just a young girl from Pennsylvania. Or Beyonce, or anyone else. People that go out and achieve great things, like a Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, Steve Ballmer, Mark Cuban, like the pioneers of business in the last 20, 30 years in America. They were just young people who liked to play with computers and had ideas, but then worked at it passionately because they believed they could be successful. And then we can name every, modern day great athlete as another example. But you have to believe that you are capable, because, when I was watching people as broadcasters, right, especially people who do what I do, non-athletes, right, who came to this and sit in a host chair, like they were just regular dudes, right, who end up having these phenomenal jobs. All right, so I'm a regular dude. Why can't I have a phenomenal job? But you have to believe it. What's that old adage? In order to achieve, you have to believe. It sounds kind of corny sometimes, but it's absolutely true. How can you achieve something that you don't believe in yourself? Otherwise, people just have to hand you things. When people hand you things, you still don't have that same motivation to do something with that opportunity. But if it's something you want to do and you believe in wholeheartedly, all your emotions into it, you're going to make sacrifices for it. And sometimes you're making those sacrifices without second guessing them. Like my first TV job, I was still in college, but I had to be at the news station every morning at 5 a.m., 5 days a week. This is my senior year of college. When I first got that job, man, I was getting home sometimes at 5 a.m., not going to work at 5 a.m., right? But I stopped hanging out with my friends during the week immediately, because that was an opportunity for me to potentially get a job as soon as I graduated. I stopped playing video games at night because of that, because I had to go to bed early. I haven't played video games since college, literally because of my career. So those are the things that you do just because it's what you want to do. And it's not about, people handing you stuff and telling you exactly how to be successful. You've got to kind of figure it out on your own. But if you have that desire, it's much easier to do so.
And the funny thing is people don't realize that when you hear a story like that from Michael Eaves, everybody thinks that, you go into broadcasting, the streets are paved with gold. Michael, that first gig, 5 a.m. in the morning, college senior, what
Yeah.
did you get paid for that?
I got paid minimum wage because it was an hourly job, and I was only there for 4 hours each morning. But I'll tell you this: so when I graduated that following May, I got a full-time news producing job. Now, I wanted to be obviously a sportscaster, but I got a job producing news, weekends, filling spots. I was making $15,000 a year in May of 1994. That was my first full-time job in television.
Try to pay for your apartment and your food. It's unbelievable.
I-
I want to
Yeah.
ask you another question about all this, because there is real significance to what you are doing, to the path that you have. Bringing this up, yes, because you and I have talked about it before as a friend, and I think it means something. I remember interviewing Charlie Sifford. Everyone asks me all the time, Dom, what do we have? Like 10,000 interviews in our archive, something like that. And they said, what's your favorite interview? And I go to two. Arnold Palmer just before he passed away, when he was reflecting on his life, and Charlie Sifford in the same situation. And the distinctiveness between those two interviews is that Mr. Sifford still had a deep hurt in his heart. And much of it came from the place that we're at this week, Augusta, Georgia, that he couldn't, despite having the talents and having done the things that others had done to gain him entry into the Masters, he was not allowed to go because of the color of his skin. And it deeply, deeply hurt him to his last dying days. How significant is the advancements that we're making right now, particularly when we look through the lens of Augusta National?
Look, I think under the guidance of Chairman Ridley, this has clearly been the most progressive era of Augusta National Golf Club and thus the Masters, without question, whether it's with minority participation or women. It's unequivocal. This is the greatest progression of this club under Chairman Ridley by far. And I think that is a result of so much work that has been done since the days of Charlie Sifford, and in the last decade for sure, in terms of how society is changing and try to right some of the wrongs. We can't go back in time and change those things, but we can help correct some of the things that those times created. And that is what is happening with inclusion. Look, I understand right now a lot of people, they try to use DEI as a bad term, and it's a political tool right now because of the election going on. I get that. But the idea of it, it matters. And it's always mattered. It's just never had a title the way it has now, and then people can turn it into something else. But just that idea of creating a better society is being reflected right now at Augusta National. It just is. Like, this is my 8th consecutive year coming here, Matt, and it feels different now than it did my first year. And it didn't feel terrible my first year by any regards, because it was better than it was, 15 years before that, 20 years before that. But it definitely feels better now when I see more and more women on the golf course. I see more women wearing green jackets. I see more faces of color wearing the green jackets. And then when you have that representation, then you start to look at the patrons walking the grounds. Like, wow, I've never seen this many black women at the Masters in 8 years I've been coming here. I said this to my wife just last night. I said, I saw more black women on the golf course today than I've ever seen here before. And then you look at the participation of the drive, chip, and putt. Look at the faces of those kids, right? And the people who are winning those events. Oh, by the way, Akshay Bhatia, who was here 10 years ago, Indian American, now he's playing in the event. That is all good. Like, how are those stories not great in the eyes of anyone watching, right? And again, but to your point, I think it's a reflection of what we're seeing in terms of society changing, Augusta National.
When you look at the 2024 Masters, here we are Tuesday of Masters Week. I'm curious if you thought the headlines have changed, but what would you say are the primary headlines heading in at this point?
Is this tournament Scottie Scheffler's to lose? Is Brooks Koepka still mad about losing on Sunday to Jon Rahm last year? And how much can Tiger Woods play? Now, you can put those in any order you want, I think those, to me, are the three biggest storylines. Just because Scotty's played so well as of late. And again, he reminds us of some of the times Tiger came in here and we were wondering not if Tiger was going to win, but by how many strokes. And a couple of times he did not win, especially when he was one of the biggest betting favorites, which Scottie Scheffler is now. And Brooks Koepka, I thought he won the PGA last year, Matt, because he was so mad about losing the Masters, and he played so well. And he really hasn't done much, since then. But it's a major for him. He always amps up his game, and I think coming here reminded him of the hurt that he felt last year, and it may motivate him to play well this week. And Tiger Woods, look, the last 2 times we saw Tiger have not been good, right? Let's go back a year ago. I think he played 7 holes on that cold and wet Saturday morning, and then had to withdraw after making the cut to tie the all-time record for most cuts made in a row. And then we just saw him at Riviera and had to leave the course after 6 holes, I believe, in the second round after feeling ill. So we haven't seen him much, and he hasn't finished any golf for us in a while as fans. So that's very intriguing, obviously.
If I gave you Scheffler, Rahm against the field, who would you take?
Whew. Well, Rahm has the lowest average score to par here of anyone who's played 200 something rounds, 300 rounds, something, whatever that number is. And Scotty Scheffler is by far the best player in the world this year. I might take those 2. And if you put Brooks Koepka in, and if I got 3 against the field, I would definitely take those 3.
That would you'd get
granted,
3.
The thing about right, thank you, but here's the thing though: at the Masters, as we've seen, there've been Danny Willett's win, there've been Mike Weir's win, there've been some guys come out of nowhere. Even when Sergio won, he wasn't playing great back then, so it's possible. But those 3 right now against the field, I'm taking those 3.
This week, could you kind of give us I'm going to ask you 2 things. The latter one, I'm not sure if you're going to have all the air times, but could you tell us about your role this week, where and how and when we can see you, and how that ties into the ESPN coverage?
Absolutely. Well, of course, there are daily SportsCenter hits, and most of my hits end up at night because that's a SportsCenter I host at night, obviously, 11 o'clock Eastern primarily. So me and Andy North kind of wrapping up the day with our hits from here at SportsCenter. A couple of the air throughout the night. We got the preview shows on ESPN Plus, 2-hour preview shows today and tomorrow, kind of setting up the coverage, obviously. And then Thursday and Friday, I'm on the telecast with Scott Van Pelt, Curtis Range, and the rest of CBS crew, and I'll be conducting the player interviews once they conclude their. It's a cool thing because I always want to know what the players are thinking about their round as soon as they step off the golf course, and I get to do that. Like the interviews that you see on ESPN on Thursday and Friday, the ones that I do, that's the first time the players have talked to anybody in the media about their round, and that's for me that role matters on our telecast, especially if something happens or if someone shoots a great score or if someone doesn't play as well as we thought they would. But yeah, that's where you'll see me primarily Thursday and Friday.
Yeah, I've told you this before, Michael. Like your ability at that point to draw out answers from them of meaning is remarkable. It's not superficial. It's not just make sure that they're happy and they go about their way. It is so hard to do what you have to do in that moment. I mean, you tell me. I would guess that your average interview is maybe 1:30, somewhere in that time frame, and within that time frame, immediately off the emotions of the course, either in elation or anger, you have to draw out something of substance, and you nail it every time. It's very impressive.
I appreciate you saying that. And yeah, that's about right. 1.5 minutes, 45. You get 3 questions typically. And, within the first 5 seconds of the person walking in the room, you get a pretty good sense of what kind of mood they're in, good, bad, or indifferent. But from that point, and that is my goal, Matt. I want to get something out of them that maybe the average person would not, but also something that the viewer at home would want to ask them if they had that same opportunity that I had.
How much is the weather a storyline at this point? Is everybody about what's going to happen Thursday morning?
Yeah, I think it just kind of matters how much rain comes, but also, Matt, when it comes, right? I've seen different forecasts, and they say a lot of it may come overnight before play is actually supposed to start, and then how much comes down, how much can the course drain. If it's going to be wet when they start, then these guys are going to be firing darts. Because if you give them a wet green surface at any place, but even here, even as diabolical as greens can be, it's easier to fire at the pins, and it slows down the greens a little bit. Even if they suck out the air with the sub-air systems, it still makes it easier to play those greens. Because these greens are their worst in a good way when they're hard and fast, right? So it's just a matter of how much rain. I think by the time we get to the weekend, it won't even be a concern. But the biggest thing is the wind. I mean, if it blows, whether it rains or not, if it blows and you're gusting 25 or 30 miles an hour, good luck, guys. Because this is a second shot golf course. It's about hitting the green and hitting the right place. But if the wind is swirling, as it always does at Augusta National, trying to judge that wind and trying to hit a certain spot on the green just makes it that much more difficult, even for the best players in the world. And that's the real key. How hard will the wind blow and for how long?
Yeah, we'll have to see how that plays itself out because the forecasts right now are exactly where you just said, 25 to 30 miles per hour gusts, sustained winds upwards to 25 miles per hour throughout Thursday and Friday. Thursday, of course, augmented by how much rain they get, when they get it, will it be joined by lightning as well? Okay, so Michael, I'm gonna throw you to wrap up here. I'm not going to put you on the spot. I don't care if you just tell me, yeah, they're pretty, but I just want to go through some holes that we thought were of distinction, a couple of which are obvious to ask you about, and a couple of which maybe not so obvious for people that are watching us around the world. I want to start with the fourth hole and just get your reaction to what we're seeing from this par 3, 240 yards. Last year actually played more difficult than the par 3 12.
Yeah, it's standing on that tee box, whether you've played the golf course or not, it just looks so far away for a par 3, right? And then you get to the green complex, man. And again, it also depends on where that green is. Anything behind that bunker on the right side, you're like, how can I possibly hit a ball this far into an area that small and keep it on the green? And oftentimes you cannot. That's why most players play away from it and just kind of putt to the green, hope you get 3 and walk out of there. It is one of the more difficult looking par 3s because of the distance and the green that we probably see on the PGA Tour.
All right, what about the very next hole? This is probably this fifth hole is probably the hole to me, Michael, that I think is the most underrated in terms of its significance.
Yes, it's definitely to me. It's the first really hard hole you face on the opening 9. Like the par 3 fourth is hard, but the fifth one, the way that they've lengthened it now, so hitting the fairway on the right side of the fairway is more challenging than it ever was. And then when you get to that green, Matt, even looking at it from the fairway, because it has so many undulations and you see these little mounds, you're like, how am I on the green no matter where I hit it? And if the pin's over here, there's no way I can keep the ball on the green, right? But obviously the best players in the world have been able to do it. But also we see that green make the best players in the world look like hacks sometimes because of the undulation and trying to hit it in the right spot. It is, to me, maybe the hole on the beginning 9 of this golf course where you squeeze your club the most, hoping you can just hang on.
And it was the most difficult hole at last year's Masters, the par 4 fifth at 495 yards. The next two, just to have some fun with, I know you're going to enjoy talking about these two. The par 3 12th, let's start with that.
The thing about the par 3 12 is it's not that long of a hole, right? Relatively speaking, especially for best players in the world. But even if you're a low single digit like I am, it's not that long of a hole. And the flag placement means everything. But that Sunday pin, it looks like it's not even a green. Like if you're standing on that tee box and looking where it is, like you see the flag there, but you don't really see much of the green surface, right? So it's kind of a mind trick within itself. But sort of like the fourth, like you just have to be smart when you play that hole based on the pin placement. Like you go back to 2019, the year the Tiger won. We had 3 dudes hit it in the water with Koepka, Molinari, and Finau. And Tiger, he hit it, 25, 30 feet left and 200 for par and got out of there, right? Sometimes you just have to be smart. When these guys are so trained to be aggressive now, be conservative and smart, and you can get out of there with a good score.
All right, how about the 15th?
I love the 15th because after you hit your tee shot, and look, it's not hard to hit fairways at Augusta National. Let's be fair. And you're just sitting there, and the hole just sitting right in front of you, like it's just as square as it wants to be. Sure, you see the water, the green's pretty wide, is right there in front of you, and you're like, if I still don't hit it right, there's a chance I can make 6 or 7 here, when I should easily make 4 with a good drive in the middle of that fairway, even the right or left side. That to me is sort of the intrigue. It's the one hole I think on the golf course that is right in front of you. And what are you going to do with it? And we've seen tremendous scores, whether it's Jack Nicklaus in '86 with the eagle he made, and then Seve that same year putting it in the water, right? We've seen so many good things and bad things happen to that hole that just adds to the lure of this place.
Challenge, opportunity, courage, risk, success, all tied into
All
one.
that.
That is Augusta National. And Michael Eaves is one of the best in the business. Cannot wait for your work coming up through the rest of this week, from those updates on SportsCenter to the live coverage. Michael, so appreciative of all the time that you always give us. But thank you once again, if as ever, for today.
No problem, Matt. Good seeing you, man. Have a good week.
It's great to see you too. You have a good week as well. Folks, we are still rolling along here with our coverage of everything Masters. When we come back, you're going to be hearing from names including who pick them: Tom Watson, Tom Weiskopf, Dave Stockton, Laney Watkins, Curtis Strange, Mark O'Meara, and more as the Fairways of Life show continues after this.
I got ball fit in 2000, went on a little run. Then Bridgestone fit me again, and I went on another run. I just got fit again for the new Tour BX. The ball fitting's been helping me. Will it help you?
Boyne Golf provides the ultimate world-class golf destination with 10 championship-caliber courses spanning 3 resorts. Centered in Michigan's northern Lower Peninsula, the courses are the products of some of the game's masters, including Robert Trent Jones Sr., Arthur Hills, and Donald Ross. From the all-inclusive vacation packages, elite instruction with the Boyne Golf Academy, tournaments, and so much more, Boyne Golf truly offers an unrivaled Michigan golf vacation experience. Just log on to boynegolf.com.
I think when you're training for other sports, or why most people go to the gym is so that they can have muscles and be strong and be healthy. And a lot of the reason why they struggle to play golf is their body doesn't move properly for them to be able to hit a golf ball. And when you're training for golf, it's a little bit different because you're focused more on flexibility and mobility and being strong in motion. When you're able to kind of have a warm up and have a workout routine and kind of gradually build up to where you're training your body to move properly, yeah, you're going to get a lot of big dividends on the golf course.
Relax. Easy now. Find your happy place. The PGA Tour Superstore. It's all in the hips, where every swing is possible. Just tap it in. Yes!
Find all the latest gear, apparel, and personalized club fittings.
Is this goodbye?
We've only just begun.
Shop with the pros at Golf's Happy Place, the PGA Tour Superstore.
What if we started a company and the company was under no time constraints, no financial constraints? The one constraint is their clubs had to be exceptional performers and much better than any other alternative. I was told time and again it'll never work. It worked like a house of fire. And I'll tell you what, I think our customers love it. BXG, nobody makes golf clubs the way we do, period.
Stride by Zero Friction, the first of its kind personal caddy. Walk in comfort and style with Stride's remote and follow me technology. The Stride handles almost any terrain, and its 54-hole range will last all day. The lightweight design and removable front wheels makes it simple to handle. Plus, it easily fits golf carts. Pick up your Stride today at a local PGA Tour Superstore near you or at zerofriction.com/Stride. Stride, your personal caddy.
It's artwork, isn't it? It's Evan Schiller with those photos. If you go on to Evan Schiller's website, you can check out all the amazing photos that he does, and you can buy these prints and all the rest. So, Dom, I didn't even get a chance to ask you today. First of all, Michael Eaves was great, by the way. I thought he did a fantastic job there. You know, he doesn't know what we're going to talk about. I don't know what we're going to talk about when he comes on. I just wanted to ask him about some of that kind of...
What are you talking about? This is all heavily planned, Matt.
Well, you have a plan. I won't deny that. You do a good job with your planning. But
heavily planned.
You know, when you're in a position that he's in, the role that he has, being one of the voices that brings us coverage of the Masters, it's so significant that I did want to talk to him about pathways and you know, where does it all mix? Where we are in the world of sport, where we are in society at large. Just what his thoughts were coming in terms of storylines and favorites. And So yeah, I just thought I thought he was excellent, and I'm not sure how long you told him that interview would be, but I appreciate that he hung with us for as long as he did. So anyway, it was great. So nice work getting Michael. Did you have a chance to put together a question of the day?
Yeah, we've actually run through 2 questions already today.
Oh.
The first question of the day was, or that I had posted at the sort of the front half of the show, was, do you skip any work? Do you skip out on work at all?
I like this question.
During Masters Week to watch the Masters? And after I like the first half of the show, right, I did that question, and the answers, I think it wrapped up at only 29% of people, or maybe I should say 29% of people said they skip work. They don't do their job to watch the Masters. I don't know if that's a high number or not, like 3 out of 10 are like not going to the Masters. That's interesting. So that was the first question of the day.
I don't think that's that high. That doesn't strike me as crazy.
So do you think it's too low?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think another way you
yeah.
could phrase that question would be, are you listening or watching Masters coverage while you're working? Then I think the numbers would be more reflective of where I think they should be, which would be in the high 80s.
Yeah, but that's a stupid question because the answer to that's 100%. That's a stupid
You don't know. It depends on what somebody does, Dom.
Yeah, anybody watching this show is watching the Masters. Come on. So the next question
somebody that's like a trial attorney has got like a little earbud in their ear, and the judge is like, is that an earbud in your ear? Did you hear me, counselor?
They're like, yes, what a putt.
Exactly. Yeah, no, they just scream out, yes. Yes.
That's right. Yes.
So counselor, is your client going to plead guilty? Yes. What?
What a putt. Especially if they got some skin in the game. All right. So the second question, which is currently running, which plays a little bit into part of the discussion that you had with Michael when you guys were talking about some of the golf holes at Augusta, specific holes. What is the most pivotal hole at Augusta National Golf Club? That's the question. And it's a write-in question, of course. Now, unsurprisingly, a vast majority of the responses that have come in round corner. I mean, is that really that surprising? Of course, that's what it is. We've got a lot of 11, a lot of 13, handful of 12s. Andrew, I think we've got a picture of the 11th hole. Now, what you're seeing here, these are really cool images. These are images from the Augusta National Masters Media Guide for this year, which gives you sort of these artist renderings of the golf holes. So there you see last year it was the third hardest hole on the golf course with, an over par average of, obviously, is a long par 4, 520 yards. Matt, what would be your thoughts? Because 11, 12, and 13 kind of across the board are the answers that are coming in from the people about being the most pivotal holes at Augusta.
Right. What I think is interesting about
just give me your rough thoughts. Just give me your rough thoughts there. Andrew, put that back up. So this is the 11th hole, and I'm wondering specifically, Matt, not only when you give me a couple thoughts on these holes, but additionally, if you could talk about for each of these 3 holes, 11, 12, and 13, if the wind is blowing, gusting at 30 miles per hour,
right,
what is that going to do on these golf holes?
But it's also from 2 different directions in 2 different consecutive days. The first thing that I would do is, for a lot of people that are watching us, I realize you guys are watching us on your mobile devices, and you may not be able to see all the information that Andrew has on the screen. So I just want to run through that quickly before we talk about strategies and impacts in Amen Corner at large and 11 specifically. Hole number 11 is called White Dogwood, par 120 yards. In 2023, this was the 3rd toughest golf course. Cumulative, though, it's number 1. Description as follows. At this hole begins Amen Corner, and wind is often a factor. A driver to the right side of the fairway is rewarded with a more level lie. A pond guards the green to the left, and a bunker is strategically placed right center. This hole may best be remembered for Larry Mize's incredible chip shot in the 1987 playoff. That playoff that they're referring to there, of course, was against Greg Norman when he hit this little pitch that trundled up onto the green complex and onto the putting surface itself and went in the hole. It was absolutely unbelievable. It was one of the things that we've talked to Larry about here in the Fairways of Life show a couple of times. And I remember asking him about the Arias shirt, if you remember, because Arias did a commercial from it afterwards. And it was like, it was 80s looking thing. It had a lot of stripes and all this stuff. And he said he still has it tucked away in a drawer someplace. Seems to me like that one might be worthy of going into a museum. The thing that makes 11 such a daunting hole is its distance, obviously, but its distance is not as profound because it's somewhat aided by topography in terms of ball release. The challenge is in what direction the wind is coming and when that wind is coming, as I mentioned, in 2 different directions on 2 consecutive days. The golf course is ingenious in that if it gives you a position where from it feels like you have an easier shot, in other words, hill or a downhill lie necessarily, the latter being more acute, then it gives you an angle that's more difficult than if you took it on a more direct line that's going to give you a more difficult position where from to hit your second shot. That's why the golf course is so exacting. The green complex itself is also difficult, particularly because of where that pond is placed on the left side of it and because of where the bunker is, as they put it, strategically placed. Strategically placed usually means that they put a bunker right where you want to bail out for safety. So it's a very, very challenging hole for a whole variety of different reasons, as noted. What I wanted to get to, though, is talking about Amen Corner. 11, 12, and 13, which is commonly described as the most difficult stretch through the golf course. What I find interesting about that is I think people are forgetting that 13, I don't think you have a graphic for 13, Andrew. I hope that I'm wrong about that. I am. I should have known better. If you look at 13, I'm going backwards right now for a reason. In 23, 13 was the 15th easiest hole in the golf course, and cumulatively, it is the easiest. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is I think that people commonly forget that 13 is a scoring opportunity. Now, we're going to have to wait and see how it plays this year, obviously. But in the course of the history of the Masters, it's a scoring opportunity. Well, that risk and reward when you're going for the green in 2, I've seen many end in tragedy. We realize that. But over the course of the field, to see plenty of birdies, even last year at 4.738. The hole played under par for the entirety of the field. And that's before the cut, when the players in the latter half of the cut obviously aren't playing as well as those in the top half of it that make it. So that's, I think, was interesting, because I think Amen Corner from that perspective is oftentimes maligned because the impression is that Amen Corner is all about difficulty. No, it's also about opportunity. There's both. That's what Augusta National is about. I think these 3 holes embody the golf tournament itself. As we go back to number 12, there's not a lot more that I would add than what Michael Eaves told us earlier about the par 3 12th. You can see at 155 yards, it's a par 3 that most people look at and go, eh. But because of the banking in the front of that green and to the left and the right, we know how difficult it can be, even if you have to hit. After hitting in the water, if you have to hit again, the angle of that next shot is incredibly difficult. The lie angle is what I'm referring to specifically here. And then getting it onto the green. I love the fact that Michael went back to 2019 and talked about that final round and how the flag was on the right. Tiger didn't go for it. He didn't take the bait. What Tiger did was he hit it right in the middle of the green, center left, and putted from there. Very, very smart. So Amen Corner, like the entire golf course, requires forethought. It requires mostly how you come in with your shot from the fairway. Your approach shot is absolutely critical. And if you can execute that, now again, there's variables involved this year because we're talking about weather, particularly through the first 2 rounds, which are 2 critically important rounds. If you could execute to where you want to put the ball in those conditions, then you can soar. You absolutely can soar. So that was my whole thing that I wanted to talk about with Amen Corner, that there are opportunities at Amen Corner, although I do think it's going to be an absolutely critical stretch, probably the most important stretch, although I think 15 is going to play a very, very important role in the closing chapters for obvious reasons. as well.
Matt?
Yes, by all means.
Based on what you were just talking there about the 12th,
yep,
and the 11th for that matter, in terms of the nature of the up and down of Augusta, right? Last year, total, all 4 rounds, cumulative, 155-yard par 3, the 12th hole. 47 bogeys.
That's at its extent. That's at the longest it can go.
Yes, 47 bogeys, 7 doubles, and 2 others.
Yep.
In what is one of the, quote unquote, easier holes, if you will. Now, the 11th hole, 59 bogeys, 13 doubles, and 2 others. It's like 70-something not pars and birdies on that hole over the course of the duration of the tournament last year. So, there's damage to be done out there, even on the easier holes, right, in Amen Corner. So it's
again, just for clarity here, the 11th hole, the cumulative 11th hole, it is the most difficult. The 12th hole that we were just talking about, cumulative, you can't just look at 2023. I've referenced it for its recency, but I think cumulative is a much more profound stat, and it's 4th. So neither one of those two would be considered anywhere near easy. They are 2 of the most difficult holes on the entire golf course. It's 13 where the opportunity rides. Both 11 or 12 is kind of white knuckle it and get through those holes as best as you possibly can, and then hope that you have an opportunity to get home in 2 at 13 and you can take advantage of it. If not, you can nestle it close enough that you can get a birdie, which the vast majority of the field is doing, as evidenced by the fact that it's actually playing under par, and as evidenced by the fact that its cumulative score is the easiest hole in the golf course. So it's that balance that I think is so classic with Augusta National. So what are you hearing from the people, Dom? What's going on today? What are the thoughts?
Quickly, just before I read some of the stuff coming in, this was just released by the Masters, a news bulletin. Honorary starters. Jack Nicklaus, Gary Player, and Tom Watson will serve as the honorary starters for the 2024 Masters Tournament. The ceremony is scheduled to begin at 7:40 a.m. on the first tee.
Okay.
Obviously, none of that information is shocking development. However, it'll be interesting to see with the weather as it is forecasted now, if that gets moved or delayed or something like that.
That's such an important part of the match.
Right, of what we were discussing, right? Of the sort of bad weather. So
yeah,
there you have it. The write-in question today was what we just went over, which was what is the most pivotal hole at Augusta? And a vast majority of people were writing in 11, 12, and 13. There was a couple folks that put 15, and there was more than one person that said making par on 18 when you're winning the tournament is the most pivotal hole at Augusta. On the 72nd hole is the most pivotal hole. And then there's a lot of people. Andrew, can you put the odds up for me? Even though it's not the question of the day, there's a lot of people writing in sort of with who they think is going to play well and who they think is going to win this year at the Masters. And there's a lot of folks sort of chiming in going, I wonder how the live players are going to fare this year at the Masters. Obviously, now that John Rahm has gone over there, Andrew's put up a photograph. Those are all of the live players who are participating in this year's Masters tournament. I believe the total number is 13. I'd have to count those people really quickly. But Brooks Koepka and John Rahm, I think, are the two faces there that come to top of mind immediately as realistically serious contenders this year at the Masters. And if you look at those odds, which Andrew will throw back up there for you, Brooks Koepka right now at 16-1 and John Rahm at 12-1. The odds makers see it that way as well. And Rory's, if I remember correctly, Matt, I think Rory's odds were like 16 or 18-1 10 days ago. Those have since improved because of his showing at the Valero Texas Open last week. I don't know if you subscribe to that. Does that matter? Should that really improve his odds that much? I don't know. But like we talked about the last couple of days, Matt, it's very hard, I think, to look at this year's field and look at that list of people on those odds, the best odds to win there, and think that the winner is going to come from anybody outside that top 5. I think the odds are really, Matt, the first 5 names on that list are, I think, is a very high likelihood that the champion of this year's Masters is in that list.
Andrew, could you go back to the photo of the guys from Live? When I look at that photo, it's just kind of contrary to what you were saying, Dom. I look at top row, Jon Rahm, Dustin Johnson, Phil Mickelson, and Brooks Koepka are all primary. Phil Mickelson, remember, tied for second last year. Phil Mickelson, it's unbelievable when you see his stats over the course of his career at Augusta National. Top 3 finishes, he's had 10, right? With his wins and all the rest. Adrian Maronk is playing some great golf. The lower level, Terrell Hatton, I think he's the sleeper of this discussion right now because we're looking at this particular photograph. I think Terrell Hatton is the sleeper. It would not surprise me in the least if Terrell Hatton doesn't win the Masters when his ball striking is on. Charles, he's done it before. Sergio, he's done it. I'm not saying either one of those two I would pick as my favorites. All I'm saying is been there, done that. They know in terms of how to play the chess game. Patrick Reed, he's done it before, and Patrick Reed is Patrick Reed. We talk all the time about players playing well when they have a chip on their shoulder. That is Patrick Reed in terms of how he motivates himself. Next to him is Joaquin Niemann, who I've already picked. He is my pick to win the thing. And then we're talking about Cam, who obviously can win anytime, any place with the strength of his ball striking. So I think when we look at that, I don't know why anyone would be motivated to suggest that players who come from a particular league, Live, would not be equipped to play well at Augusta National when what we just went through was the vast majority of the guys in that photograph. Now, when we talk about Rory, while you were showing the picture the first time, you could tell I'm looking at it right now. There's a particular distance with Rory that I want to look up. 50 to 125 for Rory. 50 to 125, Rory is currently 66th. In that stat alone, Rory McIlroy has in the past been as high as 189th. One of them comes to mind. Rory McIlroy from 75 to 100 yards, this is for season-long strokes gained that I'm giving you. He's first, right? Where Rory gets in trouble is from 50 to 75 yards currently. He's in that area, 133rd. So he's not even close to average. But when you're first in a category 50 to 75 yards, it shows you how much he's working on that wedge play. And I think that distance control with his high lofted clubs has been the thing that has cost Rory in the past, because when you look at great players, you usually work backwards. Because if they're worried about what the putter is going to do and how the putter is going to behave, they put pressure upon getting it close with their approach clubs, which many times for a player of Rory's distance at Augusta in particular, he's coming in with a very high lofted club. And how many times have we seen him hit shots that were just not good with a wedge in hand, sometimes all the way into the azaleas? But this year, his stat package, even though I did note one to you that was not spectacular, the other one, you can't do better than number one, and the other one is 66, which is a dramatic improvement in that particular category for Rory McIlroy. So I'm feeling actually pretty good about him too. Anything else, Tom, that you wanted to go over or hear from the folks before? I'd love to play a couple of these sound clips for you. You guys took the time to grab them. They're awesome. And we're hearing from people that...
We can play some more of those tomorrow too. There's a lot of stuff
I will.
Go over.
I'm planning on that too.
I want to throw something at you that I would imagine we're going to discuss tomorrow, not today.
Okay.
But I want to say it because I'm thinking about it now. If you look at Rory with 4 majors and you look at Brooks with 5 majors, and this is like a question for tomorrow. I'm just curious if either one of those players ends up winning this year's Masters. Are they the closest thing to this generation's Tiger that we have? Are those the only two? And if one of them wins,
no.
Is that it? Does that solidify things? I mean, Brooks Koepka getting a 6th major championship. There's like less than 15 guys ever that have that. That's a threshold right there. So I'd love to discuss that in detail tomorrow because I think it's a fascinating discussion.
Well, I mean, to break down your question into its pieces, if you're asking a question, let's first of all start with Brooks Koepka. If Brooks Koepka wins this Masters and he gets to the same level of major championships as Phil Mickelson, does that make Brooks Koepka the Tiger Woods of this era? That makes Brooks Koepka the Tiger Woods of this era when it comes to major championships, because Tiger Woods is also tied with Sam Snead for the most wins all time as well. And Brooks Koepka stands alone in the fact that he will openly tell you that he's about major championships, and outside of major championship, paraphrasing, he really doesn't care. When he goes out on a casual round of golf with his dad and his brother, he has difficulty even hitting good shots because he's just not engaged to that level. So Brooks Koepka stands alone in terms of who he is and how he's doing it and where he stands in history. And frankly, the definition I just gave you of Brooks Koepka applies whether he wins this week or not, bearing in mind that as exciting as this week is, because it's the Masters, there's 4 major championships in a year, and there's significance in whatever these guys do and all that remain. As far as Rory goes, if Rory wins this week, it's going to be according to who Rory McIlroy is. He will have joined a very, very select group that have the career Grand Slam. However, Rory would have won his first major in over a decade to get to that point. So Rory, when it comes to major championships, even though he's had his chances and he's knocked on the door through that period, definitely came off the boil in terms of winning major championships. So it would be significant because of what it means to history. It would be significant because of how people are going to build the story in terms of what it means to the politics that surround the game right now. So for all those reasons, it's going to mean a lot. It's going to mean a lot because Rory has a 5th major championship. Great. But again, I go back to it and say that's the first one that he's won in 10 years. So as great as it is, as significant as it is, as important as it is, as much as it will be celebrated, when it comes to Rory McIlroy and putting him in the same realm as Tiger Woods, as you just did, so much more still needs to be done in order to actually earn that particular mantle. A different conversation would be, does that thrust these players to being the best of the current generation? And even to that, I would have a strong argument to say, wait a minute, when you look at the consistency of performance in winning to win, regardless of venue, not just defined by major championships, or in this case, the Masters, then I would look very strongly at Jon Rahm, and I would look very strongly at what Scottie Scheffler's doing right now, both of whom do not have evidence for them to be crowned the same. So it's a fascinating conversation, but it's a conversation that I believe, regardless of the conclusions this week, it has to continue. It has to need more time to simmer before we can come up to any definitive conclusions.
Love it. I'm also wearing green. I'm going to wear green every day. Just saying.
Good. Well, thank you for that too. So you guys remember yesterday we mentioned that I was thinking about giving away Callaway Paradigm AI Smoke Driver, and I'm going to do it. So our social media team is working on the details, but here's the way that you guys can get the jump in this thing. You have to make sure that you subscribe to our Fairways of Life YouTube channel, because we're going to cross-reference it, and subscribe to our social media channels. And you can see it. It's right in the lower corner of your television screen. And if for those of you listening to us on the audio platforms, at Matt Adams, FOL, is in Fairways of Life, at Matt Adams, FOL. For X, for Instagram, you have to be following there. Now, when it comes to the social media platforms, X and Instagram, you need to tag 3 friends. So tag 3 friends, make sure that you follow, make sure that you subscribe to the Fairways of Life YouTube channel, and you're going to be in the running for that, which you're looking at right there. The Callaway Paradigm AI Smoke Driver, which we are giving away. I felt like starting big. I wanted to do this for a long time. And so we just decided we're gonna come out of the gate with a bang. And then we're going to pick from the platforms, cross-reference the other platforms, and we're going to give it away. to one of you. One of you are going to win this driver, which I don't even know what it's selling for right now, $500-$600, I believe. But again, you can find the it's right down there. You can see my name at Matt Adams FOL on X and on IG. Make sure that you follow on those, and make sure that you subscribe to the Fairways of Life channel on YouTube, and you're in the running. And we're going to pick it out. We were going to use this week, but because by the time we've launched this thing, we're already almost effectively halfway through the week. I think I'm going to let it go at least. I want to give you guys time. I'm at least going to let it go through next week before we pick a winner. Maybe we'll go a couple days beyond that, so you guys get a full 2 weeks to make sure you're in, or your friends in, or your family members are in, or your buddy you play golf with, if you want them to have a shot at it, or whoever it is, or whatever it is. So I was all excited about playing these clips from these champions that we've spoken to over the years about the Masters, and I realize that I'm pushing it really late. But Dom, I want to play. Let's just play this. Play this one to start. A real short one. This was Curtis Strange when he was on the Fairways of Life show, and he boldly said he went to Augusta National and he engaged in theft.
I got in Saturday afternoon, and I never left the property until Sunday afternoon, going back home to Wake Forest. I never left the property. Stayed in the crow's nest. I played golf from sun up to sundown. Breakfast, lunch, dinner in the clubhouse, mingling, just going around like a church mouse at night, looking at things, going through books, looking at the history of this place. I still have I told Billy Payne a couple of years back, I gave him $20, and I said, Billy, this is at a dinner now. I said, Billy, here's $20. He said, what's this for? I said, this is for the towel that I stole back in 1975 when I was staying at the Crow's Nest. And the son of a gun put it right in his pocket, my $20.
Shocking revelation from Curtis Strange that he stole from Augusta National. Now, one of the best storytellers about being just because he's talking about being there for the first time and what he was doing, is Lanny Watkins. He stayed at the Crow's Nest. He was up there with all the ghosts. Here's Lanny Watkins and his reflection on being on the grounds at Augusta National.
Well, all that probably started when I was 17. I played an exhibition in Richmond with Arnold Palmer. So at that point in time, Arnold was 37, still in his prime. I ended up going to school on a scholarship sponsored by Arnold, so that became the first of that. I also played in the exhibition with Nicklaus at one point in time, and Raymond Floyd in Richmond. My first Masters was 1970. I got in as a member of the U.S. Walker Cup team, and Tom Watson and I were in the Crow's Nest together that week.
Wow.
That was his first Masters. Mine. That boy screamed bloody murder in his sleep all night long, every night. I said, Watson, I don't know what you boys are doing at Stanford, but we're obviously not doing that stuff at Wake Forest yet. So he had some demons going on in the middle of the night. But anyway, my first
Lanny, I got to ask you, when you were in the Crow's Nest, I asked this of everyone that's ever stayed in the Crow's Nest, did you sneak down there and go into the champions locker room?
Of course.
Of course.
You kind of go. You go through there by mistake, if you will, because it leads right into it. So you go in the back. Hey, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to be in here. But yes, you go in, you look at the lockers, you open the lockers, look at them, see who's got stuff, and things like that. So yeah, it was very cool. But I played with Jackie Burke my first round at Augusta that year. I was 20 years old, and then second round I got paired with Gene Sarazen. And thank goodness I played really well and beat Sarazen by a shot or two. That would have been embarrassing, getting beat by a 75-year-old. So he could still play. I mean, I remember him birding the seventh hole. It was seventh hole at the time was probably 4-wood 9-iron for me. He hit driver 3-wood, ran it between the bunkers up on the green and made birdie. So it's one of those things.
Did you talk to him about the Albatross at 15 in 1935?
If they had YouTube and all the videos back then, I would have a copy of it. But I had enough presence of mind as a 20-year-old when I got to 15. I asked Mr. Sarazen, would you walk across your bridge with me? The Sarazen Bridge is left of going on to 15 green, and I actually walked across the Sarazen Bridge with Gene Sarazen during the Masters.
That is absolute gold. I have a chill running up my spine hearing those words from Lanny Watkins again. Jackie Burke, Gene Sarazen walking across the bridge named for the man. Incredible. Don't get me started. I could keep going with these clips that the guys have put together all day. We will do that tomorrow. Maybe I shouldn't say I promise you, because I don't know what Dom has planned for the show and what direction we'll end up going. But I love letting you guys hear these stories. We should just do a whole show of champions, Dom, reflecting on the Masters. It is absolutely incredible. So that will be part of what our plan is, I can tell you, on the front end going into tomorrow, so you can hear more of these incredible stories of this week that is so very, very special to the game of golf and to the history of golf at that. I hope you guys have a great Tuesday. Thank you so much for your company as ever. We're going to be right back here on the road again tomorrow, taking it all in and sharing it with all of you. And until we are together again, be well. Goodbye for now.